Hey, good afternoon, Market Rebels and Stu and Scotty. I think that was our closing bell. Pretty cool comeback. I think the SPYs were up, what, 0.7 or so? I think I saw Q's about half that, maybe 0.3, somewhere in there. But I mean, it seems like we were just talking about CPI being hotter than expected. Now the market's completely blown it off.
Did a few days ago even happen? Wait,
exactly.
Was that a dream, or did that?
I know. It's kind of what it feels
didn't happen.
like.
Why do they do that? It's just
which shows the importance of hedging your trades, and one of the things that we like to show here on Coach's Corner. So today we are joined by, all of you know, Stu, who's on here every week, and we also have Scotty. So welcome back, Scotty. It's great having you here again.
Good to be here, Bill.
All right. So today we've got another very cool topic that I wanted to share with our YouTube traders out there, because it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of trading. We're going to show you what that is, why it's misunderstood, why it's dangerous. Then we're going to show you some cool examples that can help you figure out how to understand the mechanics of different types of strategies just by using this little technique. So let's get started with our chalk talk. So remember, this is a little bit of a thought question. Think about it, jot down your answer, and then when we get to the end of the presentation today, we'll show you what the answer is. So here we go for today. There is a 30-day $100 call trading for $5. There's also a 30-day 105 call trading for $2. So the question is, if you buy the 105 call, or I should say the statement, if you buy the 105 call, you're taking less risk. True or false? So the point to see is that a lot of people talk about the price as being the risk. They'll say, well, because I'm paying less money, I'm therefore taking less risk. So what do you think?
I got to tell you, Bill, this is a topic that I run into in my sessions with people.
I can only imagine.
95% of the time.
I can only imagine. That was one of the reasons that I used to back when I was doing the classes and in some of the training classes here, have always made this a staple. It is one of the most commonly misunderstood topics in all of trading, and it causes a lot of problems.
It does. It just pushes you in the wrong direction.
Push you in the wrong direction, and yet you're going to be convinced that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So here's our topic for today: the misunderstood risk-reward connection. And you're going to find out that a lot of the things that you thought about risk and reward, how it arises, why it's there, is probably misunderstood. And again, that's going to cause a lot of misperceptions and therefore bad trading decisions. So the first thing to understand, price as risk. Let's say we have $100 call trading for 5 that we just talked about. Traders will usually, kind of in the trading lingo, will say, oh, well, I'm risking $5. If that's what you paid, they'll say, well, I'm risking 5. But if we have a different strike, let's say the 105 call trading for 2, then traders say, oh, well, if I buy this one, I'm taking less risk.
Yeah. And an example of this is when a trader says, I don't want to put more than $400 into a trade.
Right.
That's another way of saying, hey, I'm going to, traders, I'll risk 4. I'll put 400 into the trade and that'll be it. And that's my risk.
And that's my risk. And what we want to show you is that's a very poor way of looking at it, even though we know, and I'm sure that we occasionally step into that same lingo too, it's just the way that traders talk. And they'll say that, oh, I'm only risking 2, or I've got $5 at risk. And we know what they mean. And the important thing is that you're not using that language for the wrong reasons, which we find that most people do.
And that is true. Like, they will put $500 on one contract on the table. And I guess at the end of the day, $500 can go to zero. But the concept of what are they going to get for it, that's the reward part of the presentation, versus the risk that they're taking to make that reward really is not about the $5 or the $2 in this case that they're risking.
Nope. Yep. And that's what we're going to find out.
So
that's really what our question is price the same thing as risk? Should we look at this $2 number here, this price, and say you're only risking 2, which implies you're taking less risk? And as we're going to find out, that's where the trap lies. So let's go find out more of what's going on here. And before we do, please be sure to check out marketrebellion.com/get started. Lots of great videos and articles on there to help you with your options trading careers. Always want to get started with the right information. So speaking of, let's start with a definition of risk. All right, there's actually lots of types of risks in the markets, lots of different definitions, but one that is a common thread to all of them is that risk is the probability that you'll end up with a loss. So if there is a high probability for a loss, you want to think of that as high risk. Notice high probability and high risk. If there's a low probability for a loss, it is low risk. Low probability, low risk. So the thing that you want to understand right now very well is that risk is not defined by the amount of money in the trade. As we're going to find out, risky assets cost less and safe assets cost more. Right? That's why you have to pay close to $1,000 for a 1,000-face T-bill. You are going to have to spend more, but it's completely unfair to say that it's riskier because you have to spend so much for it. It's just the opposite.
And the same statement can be made. Bill's statement can be made whether you're using $100, $1,000, $10,000.
It's all relative.
10 million, whatever the number is.
Right. It's all relative.
It doesn't change anything. Think of yourself walking into a bank and saying, "Hey, hey Gertrude, can you wire out $1 million to this title company? I'm buying a project." Is that a risky? I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's got
nothing to do with the probability, right? If you're wiring that into a T-bill, we would say it's risk-free.
Risk-free, pretty much, yeah. If you believe the government's not going to default, then yeah, it's risk. It is risk-free.
So the thing, again, it's a very elusive concept. And so the thing that we want to do, which I think is a very nice demonstration, is to really prove it to you in a simple way. We're going to do that by playing a pricing game. So you, the audience out there in YouTube land, are going to answer, how much would you pay for the chance to win $100 bucks? Cold hard cash, not going to have to wait for it. There's no delay. It's a $100 bill. But there are some rules to the game. if you have to bid on it, you have to be the high bidder. And if you win the auction, you either win the 100 or the opportunity to play the game to win the 100. And if you lose the amount that you bid. Okay, so we're just going to have to, so just like a real market, you're going to have to bid on this opportunity for some type of a reward.
It sounds like what we do every day, isn't it?
It's exactly what we do. That's really the point. It's just meant to be a whole lot simpler. And instead of saying it's for sure $100 cash, we're saying, well, I'm buying the cash flows of Microsoft over the next 2 or 3 years that we might be able to reasonably project out. Well, that's a much harder thing to do, but the concept is exactly the same.
Or
here we go.
I'm paying $3 for a vertical or $5 vertical, or I'm paying
correct.
It's all the same idea. That we're talking about here. So,
yep. So here's game number 1, and it is guaranteed. All you have to do is be the high bidder, and you're going to get the $100. So let's open up the floor for bidding. Now, what I want all of you to think about is, let's say that we're in a live setting, and I'm up here at the front of the room, and all of you are standing out there. You're my market. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, here's an asset. We could call it an option. We could call it Microsoft. In this case, it's just a guaranteed $100, and you have to bid on it. So what you're doing is figuring out, well, how much could I win, and what's the probability? Well, we're saying that the probability is guaranteed. So you're absolutely guaranteed if you're the high bidder. So now I'm going to open up the floor for bidding. And what do you guys think? What would be an expected value for our high bid here? What do you think? Let's start with Stu.
So what's the expected value of it, or what would I start out?
A reasonable guess. What would you think?
$75.
$75. Okay. Scotty.
Why are you effing at me, Bill?
I think that's going to turn out to be a little bit low. Scotty.
Okay.
I can get a guaranteed $100. How much would I be willing to pay for $100 guaranteed?
Correct.
High amount, at least the majority, 80, 90. Depends on who's bidding against me.
And that's a very good point.
But I pay a high amount, $90.
Yeah. Okay. You've got the right idea. So what
90,
I want
94 bid, 95 bid. This is how it works. This is a market, right? If I bid 95 for a guaranteed 100, what would you bid, Scott?
You're at 95. I'll pay 96.
There you go, and so on and so forth.
It's going to just climb its way up. So if we open up the floor, sure, we might. Excuse me. We might get somebody who says, "Well, I'll pay 10." Well, no kidding. Yeah, you'd love to pay 10 to get the 100, but somebody else is going to realize, yeah, that would be a good deal. I'll go 20, I'll go 30, 40. And very quickly, this is going to go very close to 100. Yeah. Now, a little side note here. Theoretically, this is worth exactly 100 because there's no delay in time. You just walk up, you get the $100. Not like you have to wait a year for it to be mailed to you.
Yeah, there's no compounding or interest.
No compounding, none of that. But just for the sake of the argument, let's just say that the bidding stops just shy of 100 for 99, just to give us a number to work with.
There's no transaction costs, Bill.
No transaction costs, right. Okay. So you can also think of this as just walking into a bank with $100, maybe 520s, asking for change. Well, you shouldn't expect to get $99 in return because it's an instantaneous transaction. 100 is worth 100.
Would you expect to get 102?
Exactly, right. No, you shouldn't, or you shouldn't expect to get 99. So that's why theoretically, because of the timing here, it's worth 100. But again, just for the sake of the argument, let's say it's at $99. So I want you to hold that thought, and let's now go to game number 2. Game number 2 is the same idea, but we're going to add a little bit of uncertainty. Now, if you are the high bidder, you get to walk up to the front of the room, flip a coin, and if it's heads, you win the $100. Otherwise, you lose the amount that you paid. So now think about that. We open up the floor for bidding. What do you guys think, or just roughly, would we get for a high bid here?
Go ahead, Scott. You go first this time.
At least 30.
At least
start at 30. I think I know the number, but I'll start at 30.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll start low.
I'm a 40 bid.
Okay.
Yep.
45.
Okay.
And that's it, right? 46, 47. But can you pay 60? No.
You could, but it'd be a bad deal in the long run.
I would actually sell that bet at 60, but that's how it works. Like there's a 50% chance to win $100. So
So
what can you
50%
pay?
times 100.
50% chance, right? You got to
Right.
pay.
So if our bidding starts at 10, we go 20, 30, 40, we're going to start to see it slow down as
Oh,
we
yeah.
get close to 50.
Yeah.
So again, theoretically, it's worth 50, but just for the sake of the argument, let's just say we top out here at 45.
Right.
All right. Now hold that thought. Let's move on to game number 3. Same idea, but now we're going to really add some uncertainty. If you are the high bidder, you get to walk up to the front of the room, shuffle a deck of cards, and if you draw the ace of spades,
Yeah.
then you win the $100. Otherwise, you lose the amount that you paid. So
love
now
it.
if I open up the floor for bidding,
Yeah.
you're going to see people going, man, who wants this nonsense? There's no chance of winning, at least
I'm
nothing
I'm
reasonable.
a bidder. I can
Yeah,
bid.
exactly. People say, I'll give you 10 cents for it, maybe 20 cents. It'll start working its way up, but it's not going to go to a very high price. Why? What do you think?
Because it's 1 out of 52 chances or 1.
People recognize there's no chance of winning it or nothing to speak of, so they're not willing to pay a lot for it. The market recognizes it's high risk.
So what's
All right.
going on here? So far, we're betting like, if the number's really $1, which it probably would be a little higher, right, Bill? Wouldn't it be like $1?
Just under $2, yeah.
Right, right. So say it's $1.75. Well, say it's $1 just to make it easy. So this is the cheapest bet so far, right? We started out at 99, then we went to 45, and now we're at $1. This is the cheapest one. Is this is not finish? This is not the least risky bet, right? This would be actually the highest.
Yep. Hold that thought. We're going to look at that right now. So we're going to come by and we're going to line these 3 bets up, or these 3 games. So remember, the first one we got, hypothetically speaking, $99. So I could restate this as an asset, let's call it, to pay 99 and make $1, right? You pay 99, you walk up because that's a fee that you pay. You don't get it back. You collect 100, you're better off by $1. The second game, you can pay 45. That was our high bid, to make 55. You're more than doubling your money. So pay 45 to make 55. And then the last game down here, we found that we got a high bid of $1. So we could restate that as an opportunity to pay 1 to make 99. Now, here's the thing to recognize. Here's the prices that, remember, you guys put this up, figuratively speaking. That's what we could expect a market to do. So if we increase the risk going from the guaranteed game to the coin game, which is what we're doing, we're increasing the uncertainty. How did the crowd respond to the price here? The crowd responded by pushing price down. And what did that do in return? It pushed the reward up. As the price, or as the risk increased, the reward increased. Now, if we increase the risk some more to the card game, what happened? Crowd responds, the crowd recognizes it. Crowd responds by pushing the price lower. And what does that do in turn? It pushes the reward higher. So again, notice the connection. As the risk increases, price goes down and reward goes up. And that is the
kind of like in the money calls, at the money calls.
Absolutely.
Calls, puts, right? Same idea.
Yep. Absolutely. People think they're riskier and they're not. Now they might have more delta risk, but that's a separate story.
Topic. Yeah.
But the thing that I want people to see is that whenever you see something that is bid down to a low price and has a high reward, it is absolutely incorrect to say that it's low risk. And now hopefully you see why. You could see why a trader would say, I'm only risking $1, but hey, I can make 99. And what that does, it makes you think that you are taking very little risk because you're only risking $1, and you've got this massively high reward. So you're thinking in your mind, what could be better? And yet you don't realize that you're stepping into something that probably has no chance of winning. And that's because, or very little. And that's because of this, what appears to be a very favorable risk reward ratio. And that's why you have to be careful.
And anybody that played the game with us here, anybody that's watching that played the game, congratulations. You just made yourself a market maker. This is
exactly what they do.
Markets do, right? Now, I get that you only played one side of it. What would you bid? And you didn't play the what would you offer? But you could add that really easy.
Yes,
right?
you could. That of course.
Would you be to the first one? Would you be a seller at 105? Well, yeah,
absolutely.
Of course, right? Of course. So give them 100. Try and get 100 and sell it for 100. Sell the opportunity for 105. 45. Yeah, how about 55 or 60? You know, would you sell it for 60? And the other one is $2. What did we say? It was $2, $1.92.
$2 would be about fair value. Yeah.
Would you sell that at 2.25? Yeah. So now you made a market. So you made a market. $1.75, 2.25. That's your market. Come at me.
But
What
we
do you want to do? Buy them or sell them?
We could also see up here, this would be very similar again to like a T-bill,
T-bill.
where it appears that you're paying a whole lot for very little. And this is why people say, oh man, I'm risking 99 to make $1. That's just flat out stupid. Who would do that?
That's the
But they
perfect
don't
word.
realize the reason for the relationship is because over here, it's because it's pushing the guaranteed frontier.
Yeah.
That's why that risk reward relationship is there. Now, another thing that we can learn from this is that price is the equalizer. All right. And this is something a lot of traders overlook. Price makes all investments equally attractive, at least in terms of risk. So that doesn't mean they're equally attractive to you, but they are equally attractive in terms of risk. So question for you guys, which of these trades is better now that we've priced them all?
Well, I guess it depends on your risk appetite.
Well, that would depend on what might be attractive to you, but how could we say that one is better?
Well, you kind of really can't, but
You can't. That's exactly right. They are equally attractive. That's what that means,
yeah.
because they have been priced in.
Because
So
price
if the,
price
if
made
the
them-
coin game was at $30, now we might say, relatively speaking, this is better. Relative to the risk and the reward, this seems like a much better deal. And how would the crowd respond? By pushing it closer to 45.
Mhm.
So, but once we hit these limits, what we might call the fair values, I can't say that they're better anymore. All I can say is that they're different.
the trade, the dollars in the trade are now kind of, how could you say, like kind of
They're a
balanced
reflection, the reflection of the risks. Absolutely.
of the risk to get the reward. Yeah.
Yep.
In an efficient
So-
market, the market will always bear the proper return on risk for the probability.
That's exactly right. And
And
that's
that's
why
a great point, everyone. You know, that's what when we talk about in our language, when we talk about efficient markets, this is exactly
Yes,
what we're talking
correct.
about. We're not
Right.
talking about, should Apple be 183? I don't know. I have no idea. Neither does anybody else. But as far as the efficiency of the, like, maybe, for example, we're talking about the options here, the efficiency of the options market, what is the value of an option relative to the underlying and the time and the interest rate and all that? You see, all that you can do. You can do
Yeah, now
all-
see, this is fairly easy, which is why I designed it this way, because now we have real probabilities that we can sink our teeth into. But if this were an option, are we drawing from a deck of 52 cards or from 50 or from 60? See, we don't really know. We have an idea. And so that's why we can get a lot of price fluctuations in there. But the efficient market just means that on average, the market shouldn't consistently bid high or consistently bid low. It should be kind of a pretty good guess, which is another reason why it's absolutely wrong when you hear people say that option sellers always win. Because if that were true, you can see what would happen. The market would push the price down until that's no longer true. So now that we've got this, let's go put this into action, find out some more interesting things about risk and reward. And before we do, as always, quick reminder, go to marketrebellion.com/get started for some great free information to help you get started with options trading. So again, once you understand this risk reward relationship, you can answer a lot of questions about the markets. So let's start with one. Here's one you hear a lot. Can you minimize risk and maximize reward? I kind of alluded to it with those, good risk reward ratios. But you'll hear a lot of traders say, oh, I've got a strategy that minimizes risk and maximizes rewards. And the question is that true?
I don't think so. I mean, unless you know something I don't know, Bill, which you do.
Exactly,
You know
but a
more
lot
than
of
I do, actually.
that's definitely not true. But there's a lot of people who will convince you that this strategy minimizes risk and maximizes rewards,
Yeah.
or that their stock picking skills or
Yeah, they're
strategies.
trying to sell you something.
Right. What we want to show you is why this cannot be true. You cannot minimize one variable while maximizing another. But go back to the game, the prices that we saw from our game. If you could do that, if you could minimize risk and maximize reward, What that means is you could play the guaranteed game, that's minimizing the risk, but you would be getting that reward. See, the markets won't let you cross over like that. You didn't. You guys didn't price this at $1 to make 99 for the guaranteed game. Well, the market's not going to do that either. So what you can do is if you say, I want the $99 reward, I want to maximize the reward, that's fine. You can choose that end of the spectrum. But then you absolutely have to realize that you are taking a high risk bet, period. If you want the guaranteed game, that's fine. Understand that you're going to pay a high price, relatively speaking, and be left with a relatively low reward. But you can't minimize and maximize. And yet you will hear so many people say that. And hopefully playing this little game shows why. Okay.
That's assuming, Bill, that's assuming all market participants have the same amount of knowledge, right?
Very good. And in an efficient market, and with, especially nowadays with how quickly information flows, it's going to get, and also it's not necessarily that you have to recognize the value, but as long as somebody does. And you have to realize that the JP Morgans, Goldman Sachs, all those people, they have a very good feeling. And if they know that something is relatively underpriced, they will quickly bid it up. So for the retail trader, yes, it's much safer to say that it's reasonably priced. Yep, good point. Okay, let's try some more difficult ones now. Let's talk about the risk-reward relationship as it applies to strategies. And Stu, I know that we get this a lot in Q&A, and I'm sure that both of you get it from private coaching sessions. But for a particular strategy, how is it going to behave over time? What's going to happen if the volatility rises, or if it falls, or if the price moves? Or do we want it to move? Do we not want it to move? And people are going, oh my gosh, this is so confusing. And there's one thing you need to remember: the risk-reward connection. And watch how easy it is. So let's answer another question. What happens to the price of an at-the-money butterfly spread as you increase the days to expiration? So at the money means that the center strike is right there at the current stock price. First of all, let's take a look at what happens with short amounts of time or low volatility, or high amounts of time or high volatility. So if we were to look at stock price returns, we would get, reasonably speaking, a bell curve. And the center of that curve would be over the current stock price. Let's say it's currently at 100. So if it's a very tall, skinny curve, that shows us that it's low volatility or very little time. But if we go to a higher amount of time or a higher volatility, the curve gets shorter and wider.
So think about like what that really means, in English. Higher volatility stock. What, more days that you're working. You just think about what that really means. A higher volatility stock, bigger range, right? It's not
given it for a given amount of time, it can move more up or down.
Right. It's not 95, 105 on a $100 stock. It's like 80, 120, right? That's
correct.
High volatility. You can also say the same thing about time, like Bill's saying. Is like your $100 stock. What's the chances of it being 130 next week versus what's the chances of it being 130 in a year from now, right? Just think about what that answer. What answer makes sense, and this kind of stuff starts to fall into place.
In the bond market, they say the more time for something to go wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I say that.
We could see the same thing in something like NVIDIA that has a ton of volatility. At least
think about what's coming up next week. Right? You got the earnings. Oh my God, what can go wrong? Yeah,
right. But what if you have an option that expires in 15 minutes? How susceptible is it going to be to volatility? Well, how much is the stock going to move in the next 15 minutes? The market recognizes probably not very far. So even though it might be on paper a high volatility stock, it would still have a very low expected range.
Yeah.
So this is really the key to see, is that if we have a low volatility, let's say 20% or so in that range would be kind of an average, or a low amount of time, which I understand is relative, but let's say it's 30 days, there's not a very big range for that stock to move. But if we go to a high volatility, think like 70%, 80%, or back during GameStop days, 650%, or we're going out to 90 days or 6 months, leaps options maybe. What happens? Now we have a much wider expected range. This is the key to understand. So now let's go to our butterfly spread. We'll answer that question. Butterfly spread, let's say the stock is 100 You buy the 95 call, sell 2 of the 100 calls at the money, and you buy a 105 call. In trading terms, you are long the 95, 100, 105 butterfly. Now, if we put this into a pricing model with 30 days to expiration, pricing model says that butterfly is worth 230. It's a 5-point butterfly and therefore could make 270. And the question is, what happens to the price if you increase this to 60 days to expiration? Now, what do you think most people are going to say? Normally, we associate more time with what?
More money.
Higher prices.
Risk.
We associate more time with we've got to pay more money.
Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of people get confused.
But
So
if you start to think about what that extra time gives you and doesn't give you,
right.
well, the extra time gives you more potential range. And how do you make the most money on the butterfly? Well, if it kind of lands right there at 100, right? So a bigger range is going to now, give you lower probability of it landing at 100, which means, according to what Bill,
let's go through it exactly right. So we know that it's going to maximize its reward if the stock stays still. So with 30 days, it said it was worth about 230. So where is the risk in this? If we want it to stay still, the risk is if it moves. And what did we just say is going to happen if we give it more time? It's more likely for the stock to do what?
Deviate away.
To move. And so if we go to 60 days, contrary to what most people believe that it's going to make it more expensive, because that's usually how they think of options, what's going to happen? You're increasing the risk. Pricing model is going to say it's worth just under $2. So notice that it has actually reduced the price of the
price went down.
Price went down.
The price went down, right? It's actually more risky because of the longer time period.
Because of longer time.
Right, which is increasing the range. Right?
And the market recognizes that and says, yeah, I mean, I'll take it, but I'll give you less money for it.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing this. Now, if we pump it up to a year, pricing model says it's worth about 50 cents. So this is, again, where traders get trapped. They'll learn about a butterfly. They'll say, wow, this 30-day butterfly is 250. But look, if I go all the way out a year, and more time is better, right? We all know that more time is better. I can pay 50 cents and I've got a bigger reward. I'm taking less risk and I'm getting maximizing my reward. And it's exactly the opposite.
So ask yourself this. The stock's 100 now. A year from now, where is it going to be?
Probably not 100.
Probably not 100. It's a sucker's bed. It's the boxcars on the craps table. It's why it's 50 cents, because
it's exactly why it's 50 cents.
It's not going to happen.
Right. So there's a
almost
real good
a lottery
example.
ticket.
Yeah,
exactly. Sure it is. So that's a very good example where traders can get themselves tripped up by not understanding this risk reward relationship, because they'll look at the price of the 30-day here in black, again, priced at about 250. And then they'll look through the option chain and they'll say, wow, holy smokes, I get this one for 50 cents. I'm risking less because I'm only paying 50 cents and I'm maximizing my reward. What a great risk reward ratio. Let me buy this one. And it's exactly the opposite.
And like Scott says, it doesn't make lottery ticket a bad trade. It doesn't
make it bad.
You just have to know what it is. And I buy lottery tickets and I know that I'm going to lose. I mean, how stupid am I? But the thing is, I know that going in, and it's okay. I understand that the odds are 1 in 300 million against me. I get it. Yeah. I understand that.
The thing that makes it wrong is when you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you think that you're risking less because you see price as risk, and you're minimizing risk and maximizing reward, that's going to get you hurt. If you recognize the reason it's priced low is because it's high risk, and that's why you've got the potentially high reward, then by all means go for it. Just don't expect a lot. Don't expect a lot to happen from it. But at least you're doing it for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do one more. What happens to the price of an out of the money vertical spread as you increase days to expiration? What we just saw as we increase days to expiration, it reduced the price of the butterfly. What's going to happen here? Well, our vertical spread is a strategy. Let's say our stock is at 100. If we buy the 105 call and sell the 110, we would be long the 105, 110 vertical spread. But we could also, with a pricing model would say with 30 days to expiration, it's priced at 60 cents.
So what is the extra days give you? Think about
What's
it.
going to happen if you increase to 60 days? We're going to go from 30. So again, think of that bell curve. Do we need the stock to move? Is it going to help us? Is it going to hurt us? And that will help you to see the risk reward connection. So here's your risk graph. There's the bend at 105. There's our long 105 call. There's the bend at 110. 30 days to expiration in red. The stock is down here at 100. So think about it. Put that little bell curve. If it moves left, which it could with more time, but it's not really going to add any extra risk. Once you've bought the vertical spread, that's the most you can lose.
Yeah.
But it could certainly help us if it goes up to the right. So we're not really harmed if it moves left, but we're greatly helped if it moves right. So because we have more of a chance for the stock to move into this profitable zone with more time, the 60-day vertical spread, 105, 110, is going to cost more because people realize it's, relatively speaking, less risky. It's got a higher probability.
And again, this is what we talk about with the efficiency of the marketplace. That was a great point, Scott, right? This is how it works. The butterfly went the other way because you kind of need it to be right there.
Right in the center. Yep.
Right. But on this one, you just needed to fly high.
You need it to move.
You need
it to fly. And flying left, even though that's bad for you, it doesn't increase the risk. It's once you've bought the vertical spread, it's a sunk cost.
It's sunk cost.
But we would love to see it run up. And the way that we make it more in our favor is to add time. But again, traders will look at this and they'll say, oh, gee, why would I want to buy the 60-day here in black when I can when I can risk less and make more? And they don't realize it's exactly the opposite. You're taking more risk. That's why you're spending less and having more reward. If we pump this up to 1 year vertical spread, look at that. Pricing model says it's worth about $2, even though it's 5 points out of the money. So now you can pay 2 and make 3. And traders will look at that and say, gosh, that's horrible. What a terrible risk reward ratio. I can either pay 2 to make 3, or I can pay 50 cents to make 4.50. And you can now start to see why it's so easy to step into traps, right? As we increase the time,
stock, you got a much better shot at winning on that.
You got a much better chance of winning. And if that's true, the market will respond by bidding up the price, and that is in turn going to reduce the reward. So in all of these cases, it was a $5 reward. That's the difference in strikes. Just like we bid for a $100 bill, the market is bidding for $5. It's exactly what's happening here. So as they realize, as the probability goes up for capturing that $5, they're willing to pay more. And that, in fact, leaves you less of a profit. So hopefully you can see why it's so easy to step into traps and why so many traders get things exactly backwards. And we all know that trading and markets can be difficult enough. But if you want to know what makes things absolutely the most difficult, is when you think that you've got to head north and you really need to be heading south.
Yeah, that's
because you're seeing everything exactly opposite. And so hopefully this gives you a little more of an insight into the risk reward connection. So Bill, before we finish with our Chalk Talk, any final comments?
Bill, when you're on the interstate and you're not, like, for some reason, you kind of went through a roundabout or you went through a bypass and you're not quite exactly sure if you're heading north or south, but you should be heading south. I mean, don't you kind of get that like funny feeling in your stomach, like, hey, which way am I going?
Which way am I going?
Turn around and see. All that needs to be addressed when you're trading, so you have an idea which way so which way you're heading, or which way at least you should be heading in order to attain your goal.
Yep. So anytime that you're going for something that gives you improved odds, what do you know automatically? Higher price, less reward. If somebody says this strategy is better,
T-bill,
then it should cost more. And therefore, you're going to receive less. And now we can no longer say it's better because it's been priced in. So let's now go back to our Chalk Talk question. Should be fairly obvious. So 30-day option, $100 call is trading for 5. The 105 call is trading for 2. If you buy the 105 call, you are taking less risk. True or false, everyone? That is false. You're taking more risk, even though traders say, oh, I'm risking less. That's why it's a problem. You're taking more risk, which is why the traders have pushed the price down and leaves you potentially with more reward.
Now, if you not that this would really happen, but it can come close. like suppose the 105 call was trading for 4.5,
Yeah, exactly.
right? I mean, that's a super, super high
Pumped up. Yeah.
implied volatility stock.
And it could. It's
And
possible.
it could. It happens. It happens. Yeah, it's almost
Yeah,
like the
that's a good
same
point.
option, 100, 105. It's like
Right.
this. It's almost
Hey,
like
might as well take the 100 and buy and sell the 105.
yeah, right. And then and if you're doing that and you're paying 50 cents, well, the big range that the implied volatility is implying
Implying.
is kind of saying to you like,
that-
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yep.
Maybe not.
So anyway, we hope that gives you some more insights into trading, and one of the things that we like to do here on Coach's Corner. Again, if you're new or even if you're not so new, please visit us at marketrebellion.com/get started for all
Bill,
kinds
you
of
know
great
where people
information.
see this kind of thing?
What's that?
I think people see this on the downside, on the put side, in a high vol stock. When you have a high vol stock
Yes.
and these put spreads, just like $5 put spreads are trading for $4.
Oh yeah.
Let me sell it.
Let me sell it.
I can think for it. It's like, oh my
So
God.
far out of the money,
I
right?
lose, right? Well, it's going to 5. I mean, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
That's the deal, right? That's why it's priced at $4. It's not free money.
Yeah.
It's-
So when you're out there trading, start thinking of things in terms of probability and why the market responded. So when we look at this, we should say the market responded by pushing price down. Why? Because it's riskier. You're not risking less, you're accepting more risk. That's why the price is lower. So I hope you picked up some good tidbits on that one. And again, thanks, Scotty, for being here. We hope you can maybe join us next week. And we thank all of you for joining us out there in YouTube land. Please tell everyone to join us next week as well. It's great having you here. We hope you learned some great stuff. Have a great upcoming weekend. And we'll see you next Thursday for Coach's Corner.
Yep.
That was great. Thanks, Bill.